Hi folks, this is Angela, licensed Niagara Falls tour guide with Niagara Regional Tours out here in Lockport at the Erie Canal. So I'm going to have you walk through with me and I'm going to show you a little tease here in the off season before things get busy. In the summer, on Saturdays, they do demonstrations of what it was like for boats to go through the flight of five locks here in Lockport, New York. Now it's called Lockport because it's a locked port. And boats could get stuck here for a couple of weeks, so this was an entertainment hub. Now, when you're out here in the summer, I'm going to show you one of my favorite places, if not my very favorite place to get ice cream. So Lake Effect ice cream. Artisan flavors, absolutely delicious. Right next to me, Lockport Cave, and just beyond them, that blue and gray sign is for the Erie Canal zip line, where you can zip line across the Erie Canal. Now, Lockport is where you'd also come to do Erie Canal boat tours, to ride boats through the two modern locks and have a great cruise. So here we go. Headed down the stairs to see the canal. Now, in a few weeks, they'll be doing some gardening here and the flowers will start coming up. Beautiful trail here. So rope marks in the iron railing. Lock tenders guided thousands of boats through the locks every year. So you can see the boat that they'll use when they're doing their recreation of going through the flight of five here in the summer. It's a great demonstration, highly recommended if you're looking for something to do beyond Niagara Falls. There's a lot of hidden gems and Lockport is full of them. In the distance you can see the upside down bridge. And that bridge was constructed upside down because it takes a heck of a lot less steel to build it that way. Now, if we could get under the rocks here, we would be in the Lockport Caves, which were used for hydropower. That's where the water went to go to all the industrial buildings powered by direct current back in the day to power production before alternating current was born. And not far from me is where the fire hydrant was born, but I can't show you that factory. Unfortunately, it burnt down. The irony. Hi, guys. So we get the wooden beam construction here. They're doing some renovations. So normally we could walk across and get over to where those statues are. But right now they've got that closed off. But we can go down by the Lock Museum. Now those stairs on the side of the cliff face, that is for Lockport Caves. And I love that attraction. So we're going to come out here and get a view of the Erie Canal. So again, here is the Lock District Museum. I'm going to come down so you can see the boat. Lockport has a couple of spots where they have old boats on exhibit right on the main way so you can see them. And in Lockport, you do not have to pay for parking. So I recommend visiting Lockport. The Keenan Arts Center has a lot of events that happens through the summer as well. So Birdsall Holly is the man who invented the fire hydrant. Give you a little information here. Zip line crossing right in front of the bridge, closer to us. They do a lot of festivals and events here in Lockport as well throughout the summer. So highly recommend a visit here. A lot of good food. Maldonado's, it's great Italian food. Not far off the main drag. A lot of good pizza places. If you're looking for good wings, every pizza place in this area makes great wings. They have to. Otherwise, we would all only eat at the Anchor Bar or Duff's. So, this area is known for its excellent Italian food. So guys, let's take a peek here and see if we can go in the Lock District Museum today. Is it open? Doo-doo-doo. Here we go, guys. Ah, it's open. Welcome in. 1918. Giving you a chance to see some of the signage here. Get the machine. I love machines. What am I looking at? Something's going to tell me what that is. The original Flight of Five, back in 1825 when it opened. Lock width, 15. Lock length, 90. Minimum of 4 feet deep. So the twin Flight of Five locks were constructed to overcome the 60-foot rise in elevation of the Niagara Escarpment. So the Niagara Escarpment is why Niagara Falls exists. It's out here in Lockport too. Now I'm only about 35-40 minutes from the falls. It's only about 20-25 miles, but it's not a highway to get here. And to come out here, you'd pass a lot of great produce stands from Niagara Falls. Highly worth the trip. So again, they enlarged the Flight of Five in 1962, and then the barge canal in 1918. So it shows you the difference over time as the locks evolved. See the wood timber. The wood here on display is over 150 years old. The power plant at the locks, the electric generator. I had a feeling we were looking at electric generation. So this was part of the Francis turbine, electric generator and governor as it appeared in the powerhouse on the barge canal in 1920. I'm hoping I've got the camera pointed right. And they were competing fiercely whether AC or DC was going to be dominant. It was called the War of the Currents, and alternating current, Westinghouse and Tesla won. Later on, Edison said he wished he had jumped on the bandwagon sooner. So this generator here, and to give you a size comparison, this is bigger than I am. To give you a size comparison. So this was just a baby back then. This was the beginning of electric power generation. So each lock had a power plant, and you can see the whole route of the Erie Canal coming across New York State there. So I'm going to go do a close-up very slowly so you can see. Feel free to pause it. Take a look at that. You can see where all the power stations along the locks were. So powerhouses like the one I'm standing in now were used water to divert from the canals to rotate the turbines and activate the generators. It generated electricity, it powered switchboards, and controlled the opening and closing of the lock gates. So here we go. We've got a nice model here, the electric generator, rotating shaft, the turbine down at the bottom, and the tail race tunnel. So water diverted from the canal flowed downward through the metal flumes conduits to two turbines previously located below the main floor of this powerhouse. The momentum of water forced the runner blades of the turbine to spin, turning a center shaft, which activated two cone-shaped vertical generators in this room, producing direct current. So again, it's in the 1800s, direct current. So a lot of the industrial buildings here were powered by direct current from the water. So Today, an alternating current motor spins a DC generator that supplies the DC electricity for lock equipment. So here's a good trivia fact for you, is they're using alternating current today to spin a DC generator to generate DC electric for the lock equipment. So the lock equipment is still DC powered, but it's powered by AC. So it's very neat. So whatever may have been the performance of the railroads in other times, it is a matter that may be proved beyond doubt that cargoes by canal passed from Buffalo to New York in less time than by rail. This was from the New York Superintendent of Public Works, the book A Long Haul, 1998 quotation. It was not an immediate success. See folks on a tour right there. Woohoo, they're having fun. So this is what it looks like in the summer here. See those beautiful flowers? See where Lake Effect is? I came down the stairs right there. And there's a beautiful hiking and bike trail right along the Erie Canal here in Lockport. So even if you don't do the boat ride, beautiful views here. So animal strength and humans were used to open and close the gates to pull the boats. When the barge canal opened, towpaths were no longer required for mules and horses to haul boats, and mechanical power replaced manual labor to operate the gates. Steam and diesel now provided the horsepower for vessels to maneuver through the canal. It also fueled the motors that opened and closed the lock gates, managed by 1 or 2 lock operators who controlled the process. So up until the mid-20th century, DC motors powered 2 gravity-fed water turbines. One is still in this building today. So as I said, you can bike here. So from grains to oil, agricultural products accounted for 75% of the tonnage through the barge canal. At the same time, annual traffic increased from a low of over 1 million tons in 1918 to over 3 million tons in 1928. So through the 1920s, grain was the major product, but then oil and refined petroleum products dominated for the next 3 decades. The most substantial tonnage hauled in the Erie Canal in a 1-year period was over 5 tons in 1951. To the earlier builder, the excavation of rock was a supreme difficulty, but no longer has rock excavation the terrors of old. Modern machinery has wrought the change. So they are building the Erie Canal, or excavating further towards Cottage and Main Street in 1912 when they were widening the canal. Pardon my misspeaking there. So looking west at Lock 34, the yet-to-be-completed powerhouse in the center. So that's where I'm in this building exploring this with you right now. Bond, but not James. So steam shovels excavated stone and dirt, and Bond was one of those engineers who worked on this project. So this is why they did the enlargement, because this is a much smaller capacity than that. Over 200 contracts were awarded to construct the barge canal, with nearly half of the workforce old world immigrants from Ireland, Austria, Hungary, and Italy. So you can see the folks working on the construction there. So 1839 sketch showing the progress on the enlarged Flight of 5. The enlarged Flight of 5 in 1880 to 1910. The Flight of 5 locks increased in size, allowing an increase in tonnage of canal boats from 75 to 240. The estimated cost for lock construction totaled $600,000, or roughly $15 million today. The engineer placed in charge of the expansion, Thomas Evershed, so English immigrant. He was 19. So they should show him when he was doing it, because it's impressive to know a 19-year-old designed that enlargement. Now here we go, the lock tenders. So this was once called Clinton's Ditch as well. So these are some of the artifacts they pulled out in 2007 that show some of the equipment and pieces that were used in the earlier construction of the canal. As Niagara Falls are the greatest natural wonder, so Lockport, its locks in the canal, are considered the greatest artificial curiosity in this part of America. Stuart Scott, 1826. If you're in Niagara Falls and you have not ventured down to Lockport, but you have the time, take a day and come out here. It is worth the visit. And I'm showing you all the signage here so you could see about the Erie Canal, about the Flight of Five. It looks as if the demon of machinery, having invaded the peaceful realms of nature, had fixed on Lockport as the battleground on which they should strive for mastery. Domestic manners of Americans, Mrs. Frances Milton Trollope, 1832. Beautiful quote. Orange Dibble, Lockport resident, developed an ingenious invention that solved the problem of removing large volumes of stone created by drilling and blasting out the deep cut. His lift could remove about 1,000 pounds of rock at a time from the 30-foot deep chasm to the canal rim using horses, a large boom arm, and a bucket. So, Birdsall Holly, 1859, the Holly Manufacturing Company, building hydraulic lift machinery, pumps, and sewing machines. He's the one that designed the fire hydrant. So this was his fire hydrant, patented in 1869. You know, they thought it was a bad idea, and then the Chicago fire happened, and fire hydrants took off and became a success. So the Flight of Five was considered an engineering marvel, but it would not have been such a success without the inventions that grew from overcoming the obstacles born out of the project. So, the plow and scraper, tree feller, stump puller, Botsford's drill bits, water lime cement, quicklime, turned to paste and eroded easily, so canvas white. Studied canals in Great Britain, came back to the U.S., and with the help of Dr. Andrew Bartow, came up with hydraulic cement. So more reliable than quicklime. Here at Lockport, we're about to tackle the most difficult portion of the canal, the area that goes through 100,000 feet of solid rock, thus conquering the Niagara Escarpment. Man challenges nature. So if you think a barrel rider or a daredevil is impressive, this is man challenging nature, and the impact on society was huge. Tourism increased, being able to get goods from one side of the state to the other, huge. The work here is completely impressive. So if you want to talk about man challenging nature in an amazing way and overcoming, this is where it happened here in Lockport at the Flight of Five. Kings build pyramids, but it was reserved for a popular government to produce a scene like this, such as Lockport on the canal. William Lyon Mackenzie, British traveler. So now we're looking at the Erie Canal route here. Rochester elevation 508 feet. The deep cut went right through the Niagara Escarpment, or right in front of the Niagara Escarpment, right along there, the mountain ridge they had to go through. So 450 million years ago, no element of constructing the Erie Canal and reaching Lake Erie posed a greater challenge than overcoming the Niagara Escarpment, a 450 million-year-old geological feature extending between New York and Wisconsin, where the land rises sharply over a rock ridge. So when we say the word escarpment, we're talking about a rock ridge that extends up through Canada and down into Wisconsin from the Rochester area. So it was not the only obstacle to overcome completing the Erie Canal. So they needed to make sure they had a constant supply of water from Lake Erie. So they had a 7-mile long, 12 to 30 foot channel called the Deep Cut. Why here? This area is lower than all the areas around it, so they picked the low ground, even though at times it was the high ground. So, tell you a little bit about it. Now I'm going to show you the cool exhibit here in the middle. Can you locate the following? The cut stone construction of the locks, the timber construction and wrought iron detailings of the lock gates, the culverts that control and divert water from the lock chamber to the one below the spillway, the tow path that allowed mules to pull boats along the canal. So we've got a nice exhibit here to look at. And this scale model was constructed using an updated drawing entitled Plan of the Locks at Lockport. I'm going to pretend my phone is a drone. So ready? Here we go. My phone is a drone. Coming down the flight of 5. As if my phone was a drone. This goes from the colonial years all the way to the 1900s. The Panama Canal was constructed from 1904 to 1914 at the same time as the barge canal, and much of the engineering knowledge of the day came from the previous Erie Canal projects. So the Erie Canal made it easier for them to overcome the challenges in Panama. So folks, again, I want to thank you for joining me here in Lockport at the Erie Canal and to see a little bit of the exhibits here and why you might want to come out here and check out the Erie Canal when you are in the area. So thank you for joining me.